Just as expected, the door was unlocked. A gentle push was all it took. The curtains were drawn, plunging the room into darkness. I lifted my chin and stepped inside. But when my gaze swept over the bed, I froze. The king-sized bed lay perfectly smooth empty. Huh? The system said it would send me here to ruin the protagonist's big moment. So, where were they? Did I show up too early? I was about to step out and check when my hand had just touched the doorknob when I felt someone approaching from behind. I frowned, but before I could turn around, the person grabbed me, spun me around, and pressed me against the door. His hands gripped my shoulders, strands of loose hair covering his brows. I knew the setup well. The male lead gets drugged, and the female lead just so happens to stumble into his room. And then, well, just as I was about to ask gently, he lifted his head. When our eyes met, I froze. I was stunned. Alarm bells went off in my head. Just as I tried to bolt, he scooped me up and tossed me straight onto the bed. Panic surged through me. Duan Yu! My lashes fluttered, my voice trembling. Duan Yu looked up. His eyes narrowing beneath them flickered suspicion, restraint, and something pitiful. It instantly reminded me of that rainy night 2 years ago. Back then, his eyes had looked exactly the same. I had long since transmigrated into this Mary Sue CEO novel, becoming the unattainable love of the villain Duan Yu. Back then, the system's mission was simple: get close to the villain, redeem him, and at the moment he needed me most, break up with him, resolutely leave the country, and die cementing myself as the woman he could never forget. And that was exactly what I did. I succeeded in getting close to Duan Yu during his darkest days. His paranoia and gloom faded because of me. He wasn't nearly as bad as I had imagined. Just a stubborn young man at heart. But on the night the system issued its final ultimatum, I hesitated for a long time before finally calling him and saying we were done. He practically gritted his teeth as he said, "You wouldn't dare." Then he hung up. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, there stood Duan Yu, drenched from head to toe, his eyes bloodshot and burning with fury. Outside, rain poured in torrents. "Why didn't you bring an umbrella?" I demanded. "Duan Yu never took care of himself. Why are you breaking up with me?" His voice was hoarse. I averted his gaze, unable to come up with a reasonable excuse for a long time. "Speak." His voice hardened. Bracing myself, I met his eyes. "I got tired of you. That's all." Duan Yu let out a cold, mocking laugh. "So you were playing me? I'm going abroad. My flight's tomorrow. Maybe I won't come back." His anger turned to a chilling smile. His bloodshot eyes fixed on me with an almost ghostly intensity. I still remember that look. In the original melodramatic plot, the unattainable love had always been sickly, suffering from a heart condition. Breaking up with Duan Yu was her way of making sure he would forget her. This part of the story existed solely to push Duan Yu toward full villainy, setting him up to go against the male lead. I followed the plot step by step. My heart condition flared up. I went into surgery, and as I was peacefully waiting for death, the system brought me back. It said I had a new mission: seduce the male lead. I was pretty sure it was just short on workers and using me as a reusable tool. Here I was, the unattainable love, fresh from messing with the villain, and now I had to go after the male lead. What kind of god-awful storyline was that? But complaints aside, work was work. And now, 2 years later, I was back. Though, my first day back was already off to a rough start. I hadn't expected to run into Duan Yu, nor did I know why the one who had been drugged was him. Duan Yu. In my panic, my flailing hand landed right on his face. Slap. Duan Yu froze, and I clutched the blanket, not daring to move. I might have hit a little too hard. Duan Yu's brows knitted together as he struggled against the haze in his eyes. When they finally sharpened, he looked at me first in shock. Then realization dawned on him. The sound of running water reached my ears, and I finally let out a sigh of relief. "System. System," I called out mentally. After a long pause, the system's mechanical voice finally responded. "Hello. Host 0097. I rubbed my temples. What the hell is going on? Why is Duan Yu here? The system droned. Current plot developments are unknown. Please resolve the situation on your own. And with that, it went silent again. Always quick to disappear when things got complicated. Guess I was on my own. The best strategy was to run. I was just about to slip out when I came face to face with Duan Yu stepping out of the bathroom. Our eyes met. I was the only one feeling awkward. I had a strong suspicion Duan Yu had showered fast because he knew I tried to escape. The sound of the lighter opening and closing echoed in the quiet room. I was the first to crack under the tension. "Duan Yu," I said weakly. Only then did he look up. His dark eyes calm as they studied me. "Explain." His detached tone was what unsettled me the most. I twisted my sleeve, at a loss. "I didn't do that to you. I just walked into the wrong room, I swear." "Jiang Miao." I was cut off mid-sentence. The anger in Duan Yu's voice was clear now. "I'm asking for an explanation about why you suddenly came back." Right. I had confidently sworn I'd never return. But how was I supposed to explain that? I just suddenly wanted to come back. My voice trailed off. Yeah, I couldn't keep that up. Hey. He let out a cold laugh, his narrow eyes narrowing further as he stepped toward me. I instinctively backed away until my back hit the wall. Duan Yu leaned down, the dim room doing nothing to hide the predatory gleam in his eyes. "Miss Jiang." His voice rumbled above me. "Coming and going as you please?" "After you left, I did a lot of thinking," he continued, lowering himself to meet my eyes. "If I let someone go once and they're stupid enough to come back, then they'll have to die with me." My eyes widened at his words. Before I could react, his hand closed around my wrist. Duan Yu's commanding presence engulfed me, forcing my head back as he claimed my lips. It was then I realized Duan Yu had never intended to let me go. A strange heat surged through me, making my gaze toward him feel almost soft and hazy. He deepened the kiss, ignoring how breathless I was. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Duan Yu pulled back. I rested against his chest, panting lightly. I heard him chuckle softly near my ear. "Still haven't improved, have you?" I shot him a glare, shoved him away, and turned to leave only for my wrist to be caught again. "Where do you think you're going?" Duan Yu's voice carried a note of irritation. After everything that had just happened, my earlier fear of him had faded. "None of your business." I tried to pull free, but he wouldn't let go. "Give me your phone," he said. I didn't move, my silence a quiet defiance. Duan Yu didn't seem bothered. He simply took my bag, fished out my phone, and unlocked it with practiced ease. Damn it. I forgot I never changed the passcode. The moment the phone unlocked, I saw a flicker of satisfaction cross Duan Yu's face. He saved his number before handing it back. "Try blocking me. See what happens." I shoved the phone back into my pocket, smoothed out my clothes, and hurried out. I knew that no matter how obsessive Duan Yu was, he never actually restrained me. Only when the elevator doors closed did I finally feel like I could breathe without his suffocating presence. What the hell was this plot? I glanced at my watch. Whatever. Mission first. Ding. The elevator stopped at the 3rd floor, and the system's voice chimed in. "System detects host is 20 meters away from the female lead." I stepped out and looked around the hallway. Empty. "Where?" "Where?" I asked the system. "System detects host is 17 meters away from the female lead." Then I remembered in the original story, the male and female leads met for the first time after the female lead was set up by her stepsister and nearly lost everything. She only made it into the male lead's room while running for her life. But now, the male lead was gone. Well, things were getting interesting. "Help. Help." A woman's panicked voice rang out from a nearby room. That had to be the female lead. I weighed my options. If I ignored it, completing my mission would be easier. But the desperate cries continued. She was a woman in distress. I couldn't stand by. I quickly contacted hotel management, then followed the sound to the room, kicking the ajar door open while raising my phone to my ear, speaking loud enough for them to hear. "Yes, officer. It's at Wheat Hotel. Room 307 solicitation. You're downstairs already. Great. I'll keep them cornered here until you arrive." The thugs inside exchanged panicked glances, scrambling to grab their clothes and make a run for it. I stood at the doorway, pretending to hesitate, too scared to actually stop them, but enough to sell the act. They barely glanced at me before taking off. Only then did I step inside. A young woman knelt on the bed with her back to me, hurriedly straightening her clothes. Her shoulders trembled, faint sobs escaping her lips. "Hey." The moment I spoke, she spun around. Her eyes were stunning, teary and fragile, filled with unshed tears. So this was the female lead, Jian Li? She froze when she saw me, disbelief written all over her face. Then she stumbled off the bed and threw herself at me, burying her face in my arms as she sobbed. In the original story, after barely surviving, the female lead ran into the drugged male lead and ended up agreeing to a marriage contract with him. Honestly, that should have been a second trauma. I stood there for a moment before gently patting her back. "It's okay. You're safe now." I got Jian Li a new room, just in case those men came back. I also made sure to inform hotel security. Throughout it all, Jian Li clung to my arm like she'd never let go. Even now, in the new room, I needed to use the bathroom. But when I looked down and saw her puppy dog eyes, fine, I could hold it. System detects host is 30 meters away from the male lead. Of course, I carefully slipped my arm free, ignoring Jian Li's pleading expression. "I have to go now." She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. I sighed in relief. "I've already paid for the room. You can stay here for a few days." Jian Li nodded again. She was surprisingly sweet. As I reached the door, she suddenly spoke up. "Wait, what's your name?" "Jiang Miao." And with that I left. Her voice followed after me. "Will I see you again?" But the door had already closed, and I didn't answer. Of course she'd see me again. We had a long way to go. Originally, I hadn't expected to get along with the female lead this well. I was supposed to be seducing the male lead, and she was basically my rival. But the plot seemed to have taken a turn. For instance, the moment I stepped out, I spotted our missing male lead at the end of the hallway, cornering some woman against the wall. Here I was, playing hero to save the female lead, and he was out here showing off. In the original story, the male lead, Joshi, was a fake playboy and a true romantic at heart. He played dumb so well that no one saw him coming. I took a deep breath. For the mission. It's all for the mission. With that, I strode gracefully toward the male lead. I had a striking look. I could easily stand out among any woman. Just as I was about to pass them, Joshi finally spoke up. "Hold on." A smirk tugged at my lips. But I kept walking, listening for what came next. Joshi dismissed the woman and walked toward me. "Miss." His voice called from behind, and only then did I stop and turn, pretending to be uncertain. "Were you calling me?" Joshi wore his usual easygoing smile as he pulled a business card from his suit. "I think you'd make the perfect date for an event I'm attending tonight. Would you care to join me?" He played the part well. I glanced at the card, then gave him a polite smile. "Sorry, no. If you want to seduce a CEO male lead, you have to play hard to get." I stepped into the elevator. Joshi followed. "You're the first woman to turn me down," he said with a smirk. "If you won't come to the event, at least give me your card." I smiled and handed him mine. When Joshi read my name, his expression flickered with something serious before he quickly masked it. "So you're the heiress of the Jiang family," he murmured. Then, with a knowing look, "I'll call you at 8 tonight, Miss Jiang. You can turn me down again then." As the unattainable love, I came from an incredibly wealthy background in this story. When the elevator doors opened, I stepped out and immediately spotted Duan Yu lounging on the lobby sofa. His dark, icy eyes were fixed on Joshi beside me, a barely suppressed hostility lurking beneath the surface. Emergency question. What do you do when your two love interests end up in the same room? Asking for a friend. And I need answers fast. I wanted to bolt back into the elevator, but my feet were frozen. I had no idea where to go. Duan Yu stood, his tall, cold presence cutting through the space as he strode toward me. "Where did you go?" His voice was low, ominous. His presence alone made me shrink. Joshi spoke first. Duan Yu ignored him, his gaze locked on me. The guilt twisted in my stomach. Joshi, unbothered, turned to me. "Anyway, I have things to do. Miss Jiang, I'll call you at 8. He made sure the words hung in the air before leisurely walking away. Thanks for that. Really. The confined space only made his presence more suffocating. Duan Yu stared straight ahead, lighting a cigarette in silence. Once again, I was the one to break first. Why are you still here? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't respond. The car was silent. My hands curled unconsciously. TCH. I should have just kept my mouth shut. After what felt like an eternity, he finished his cigarette. Finally, Duan Yu turned to look at me. Explain. I just happened to run into him in the elevator. The guilt creeping into my voice made me sound even more suspicious. Duan Yu remained silent. I couldn't tell if he believed me or not. And you just happened to exchange numbers? He raised an eyebrow. Wait, why was I even explaining myself so guiltily? Then, with a soft chuckle, he leaned toward me. Looks like I wasn't clear enough half an hour ago. A wave of heat rushed to my face. My eyes darted away, my expression turning awkward. Ever since we'd reunited, Duan Yu had become much more assertive. My cheeks burned all the way to my ears. Duan Yu started the car, and for once, there was a trace of amusement in his eyes. He drove me home, the home I had always lived in. It had been 2 years since I'd last set foot here. Just as I was about to get out of the car, he stopped me. Don't answer his calls. It took me a moment to realize he was talking about Zhou Xi. Okay, I agreed obediently. Duan Yu narrowed his eyes, skeptical. So I raised my hand. I promise. Don't judge me. I'd crossed my fingers when I made that promise. I'd mastered the art of playing hard to get, so I elegantly accepted Zhou Xi's invitation. Hanging up, I felt pretty pleased with myself. That good mood didn't last not when I stepped into the car with Zhou Xi and saw where we were headed. The banquet was at Langson Residence, a location that shouldn't appear for several more chapters. It was showing up way too early, especially since the male and female leads hadn't even officially met yet. A knot of unease settled in my stomach. The doorman pulled open the grand entrance, revealing a lavish banquet hall. I braced myself and followed Zhou Xi inside, unable to predict what other plot twists lay ahead. The Langson Residence banquet was a pivotal moment in the book, transforming into a socialite overnight. The male lead would also make a grand declaration of love, announcing to everyone that she was his woman. And then there was another key player, my second uncle, Jiang Yanfeng, who had cut ties with the family years ago. Honestly, Duan Yu's eventual downfall, his complete unraveling, could be traced back to him. But the male and female leads hadn't even met yet. I was completely lost. The plot was moving at double speed. I was so deep in thought that I didn't even register the people approaching to offer me a toast. I made up my mind. I wanted to change Duan Yu's ending. The Duan Yu I knew wasn't a bad person at all. Wait. Duan Yu? Oh, crap, I'd forgotten about that. Panic seized me just as the hall doors swung open again. Duan Yu stood there in a black suit, his usual tousled bangs swept back, revealing sharp, handsome features that gave him an air of cold elegance. He looked really handsome. Eventually, his eyes landed elsewhere. I let out a slow breath. Okay, this was fine. The banquet continued. Suddenly, another group entered through the doors. The man at the front, though middle-aged, carried an undeniable authority. He cleared his throat. He continued, I've gathered everyone here to share some good news. Not long ago, we found my long-lost daughter. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The people behind him parted, revealing a young woman at the entrance, Jian Li. So the plot was starting after all. Jian Li was clearly out of her element, fidgeting with her dress as she awkwardly made her way inside. Her gaze swept the room until it landed on me. Her dull eyes suddenly lit up. Mustering her courage, she lifted her chin and slowly walked to Jian Hongli's side. Within moments, people were approaching with congratulations. Jian Li was surrounded, yet she remained unusually quiet. Yes, this was exactly how it went. In the original story, someone would spill wine on her. The male lead would swoop in with his jacket, scold the offenders, and dramatically declare her his woman. I flagged down a server and grabbed a blanket, planning to get to her before the male lead did. The crowd swarmed after her, trapping me too. My frown deepened. Jian Li froze, her face flickering with anger as she opened her mouth to speak. A jacket draped over my shoulders. I turned. It was Joshi. His usual carefree expression was gone, replaced by a rare sharpness. You're all supposed to be elites, yet this is how you treat two young women. I wasn't aware everyone here had such low standards. He paused, turning to the host, Jian Hongli. Mr. Jian, they've offended my woman. What do you suggest we do about it? Wait. What? Why did this feel familiar, this plot? It had completely derailed. I pressed my lips together, ready to improvise. The tension in the room was suffocating. Then a low, breathy chuckle cut through the silence. From beyond the crowd, Duan Yu stood by the drinks table, twirling a glass in his hand, looking as composed as ever. Joshi's eyes narrowed. Something funny, Duan Yu? Duan Yu looked up calmly, meeting Joshi's gaze. I just found what you said amusing. The two men were separated by a distance, but I could practically feel the tension crackling between them. Duan Yu looked away first, his gaze landing on me. His voice was firm. Jiang Miao, go change. Suddenly put on the spot, I blinked. Oh, okay. I followed a staff member toward the changing room. Jian Li trailed behind me. It was only when I was handed fresh clothes that I recognized the person leading the way. It was Duan Yu's assistant. I murmured a thank you before stepping inside to change. Looking at the clothes in my hands, a warmth spread through my chest. Duan Yu always thought about me first. Sister Jiang, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. This has nothing to do with you. It was the plot's fault. If only I had been stronger, braver. Jian Li's voice trailed off, heavy with guilt. This girl was overthinking things. I think you're wonderful. Her eyes slowly brightened. Really? You think I'm wonderful? Yeah. I nodded firmly, taking her hand and leading her out. Behind me, Jian Li's lips curled upward as her grip on my hand tightened slightly. The changing room was tucked away in the most secluded part of Langson residence. The moment we stepped out, I spotted a tall figure half hidden in the shadows ahead, leaning against the wall. Even though only part of him was visible, I recognized Duan Yu instantly. Not far from him, a staff member was leading a group of men in my direction. My ears caught 3 words. Mr. Jiang. My steps faltered. Jiang Yanfeng? No. He could not meet Duan Yu. He would destroy Duan Yu. I muttered to Jian Li. Go ahead without me, and hurried toward Duan Yu. Before he could react, I grabbed him and pulled him into a nearby room. The men's voices grew closer, then passed by the room. I let out a breath. What, sneaking a hug while your boyfriend's not around? Duan Yu's teasing voice sounded near my ear. I turned to find him bent low, standing much closer than I'd realized. But I had no time for that. Jiang Miao, stop changing the subject. What are you doing here? I lifted my chin. Weren't you waiting for me? Duan Yu seemed caught off guard by my bluntness. I wasn't waiting for you. He deflected. Can you promise me something? If you ever run into this Jiang Yanfeng, don't listen to anything he says. Don't forget we're exes now. He emphasized the last words, still holding a grudge. I met his eyes with a rare intensity. Duan Yu, I'm not joking. Seeing how serious I was, he paused. Is it that important to you? It was important to you. And to me. Very important, I said firmly, waiting for his answer. His easy acceptance caught me off guard. Duan Yu just watched me lazily, still leaning against the wall. Something stirred in my chest. A strange, fluttering warmth. The banquet continued. A strange sense of familiarity washed over him. Had he seen her before? Pushing the feeling aside, his gaze swept the room. Where's Jiang Miao? She's held up. Would you like to wait for her, Mr. Zhou? She's held up? Jian Li asked softly, her eyes wide and harmless. Sure. Joshi excused himself from his conversation and left with Jian Li. Once they were out of the banquet hall, the noise faded. I heard your company's yacht project was a huge success, Jian Li said quietly, admiration in her voice. That's really impressive. Joshi smiled at her earnest expression. It was just a small project. That's not a small project. It's in high demand. I heard it's Zunian Group's main focus too. Jian Li's eyes sparkled. If you two work together, it would be amazing. Joshi smiled but didn't reply, his expression turning contemplative. The girl's seemingly casual words had planted a seed. Only when I was sure Jiang Yanfeng was gone did I dare leave the room with Duan Yu. I barely relaxed when we ran into Joshi at the corner. The air went still. Joshi looked mildly surprised. He glanced at Duan Yu, a smile playing on his lips. "Were you changing clothes too, Mr. Duan? Looking for someone?" Duan Yu replied coolly, lifting his cold gaze. Their eyes locked, hostility simmering between them. The awkwardness stretched on. Why did I keep ending up in these love triangle situations? Were you two just going to stare at each other forever? I cleared my throat loudly. Ahem. Joshi was the first to move, grabbing my arm. "Let's go." "No. Don't touch me." I'd been planning to slip away with Jian Lai. System mission assignment. Host must complete the mission leave with the male lead and gain affection points. I'd almost forgotten this thing existed. The system really chose the worst time to speak up. I grimaced, closed my eyes like I was marching to my death, and let Joshi pull me along. A chill ran down my spine. I didn't need to look back to know Duan Yu's gaze could kill. Jian Li watched Joshi lead me away, something shifting in her eyes, though her voice remained soft. "Mr. Zhou seems to really like Sister Jiang." Duan Yu glanced at her, his look sharp enough to see right through her. Jian Li flinched, lowering her gaze. "Miss Jian, innocence suits you better." With that, Duan Yu walked away, leaving her alone in the empty hallway. Jian Li suddenly smiled, a slow, unfamiliar smile that didn't match her earlier demeanor. In the car, Joshi didn't start the engine. He turned to me with that familiar, roguish smile. "You and Duan Yu are close. You could say that." I nodded. He hummed thoughtfully. "Do you like him?" Something about the question made me flustered. I waved my hands frantically. "No. No." "Well then." His eyes gleamed with cunning. "How about giving me a try?" I choked on my water. Joshi added, "I'm very interested in you." "Thanks." I looked down, thinking, I should say yes. That was the whole point of my mission. But now that the moment had come, I hesitated. I couldn't bring myself to agree. Back when I was pursuing Duan Yu, I could say anything without a second thought. Did that mean I actually liked Duan Yu? No, definitely not. It was probably just because Duan Yu was better looking. "Yeah, that was it. We've only just met," I said carefully. "Let me think about it." The male lead was only curious about me for now. I needed him to develop real feelings before I made my move. The timing wasn't right. "All right. I'll wait for your answer." Joshi nodded. We finally reached my place. I thanked Joshi and went inside. The moment I opened the door, I sensed someone standing in the entryway. I turned to run, but was pulled into an embrace. The familiar scent, mixed with a hint of alcohol, reached me. My stiff shoulders relaxed. It was Duan Yu. I suddenly remembered he had a key to this place. So that was why the house was still clean after 2 years. Had Duan Yu been keeping this place ready, waiting for me to come back? Duan Yu? In the darkness, every breath felt magnified. His low, hoarse voice came from above. "Did he touch you? Kiss you? Did you agree?" I'd never seen him like this before. "No." I started, but his lips silenced me. After a long moment, Duan Yu seemed to realize I wasn't fighting him. He stopped. He pulled back and saw that my eyes were filled with tears. I steadied my breathing, pushing him away gently. "Duan Yu, let's get things straight." I held his gaze. "Whatever happened before, whatever happened earlier, I'm letting it go. But from now on, don't do this anymore." I had to pursue Joshi now. I couldn't seduce the male lead while clinging to Duan Yu. It wasn't fair to him, and I couldn't accept that version of myself. "You're lying." Duan Yu let out a soft laugh, his jaw tightening. "You like me. 3 years ago, you approached me with a purpose. Now you're doing the same with Joshi. You're doing things you don't want to do. Jiang Miao, is something controlling you?" My eyes widened, my heartbeat racing. How did Duan Yu know? If he'd guessed, then he was terrifyingly sharp. I could barely hide my panic, my voice faltering. I don't like you. I do what I want. Is that so?" Duan Yu sneered. clearly not believing me. His eyes seemed to see right through every wall I put up. I quickly composed myself and flicked on the entry light with a sharp click. The sudden brightness exposed everything, including my disheveled state. You think too much. Is it really that hard to accept that I don't like you? My tone shifted. Or is it that the great Duan Yu, after spending a few years with me, just can't let go? Duan Yu's lips pressed into a thin line. His eyes slowly reddened, his expression darkening with a cold, menacing edge. The usual calm in his demeanor had vanished, replaced by something dangerous and bitter. He took a step toward me, and my body tensed. But just as he reached me, the fury in him seemed to drain away, leaving only exhaustion. You're right, Miss Jiang. With that, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The force of it made me flinch. I leaned against the door, sliding down until I was curled against it, burying my face in my arms. Duan Yu was right. I was full of lies. I'd even fooled myself. The question I'd been avoiding finally had an answer. I liked Duan Yu, but I didn't regret this. And I would just do my mission, finish my task, and go back to my world. That was how it was supposed to be. By the time I woke up, it was already noon, my eyes stinging. I rubbed them as I groped for my phone. The first thing I saw was a news notification. Zunian Group and GR to jointly develop WAP launch event to be held tonight. I shot up in bed. GR was Duan Yu's company. How? I'd stopped Jiang Yanfeng from meeting Duan Yu. Was this fate? Was it inevitable? I immediately dialed Duan Yu's number, but the call wouldn't go through. He'd blocked me. I switched to WeChat. Red exclamation mark. Oh, this was bad. I scrambled to the closet, fished Joshi's business card from a coat pocket, and dialed his number. Hello. Joshi barely got a word out before I hung up. No way. In the original story, Joshi and Jiang Yanfeng had teamed up to destroy Duan Yu. If I asked so directly, what if he caught on? I was staring at my phone, deep in thought, when Joshi called back. I picked up slowly. Miss Jiang. What's the meaning of hanging up on me? When did Joshi even save my number? How about lunch? He asked. I have things to do. All right. Another time then. I hung up and kept thinking. The launch event. The launch event. The launch event. How was I going to stop Jiang Yanfeng? Wait, Joshi would definitely be at the launch event too. I hurriedly called back, my earlier hesitation gone. What are we eating? Joshi chuckled. You pick. But if I'd known that grabbing a meal would lead to running into Duan Yu again, I would rather have died than come. I picked a restaurant close to the venue, thinking it'd be convenient. And then, not even 10 minutes after we sat down, a familiar figure walked in. Duan Yu was with Jiang Yanfeng, and they strode straight into the restaurant. I practically dove under the table to pretend to tie my shoe. Okay, I was wearing heels. No laces. Whatever. Just hide. Can't see me. Can't see me. Can't see me. Of course, fate had other plans. Jiang Yanfeng's voice carried across the room. Well, my little niece. I plastered on a smile and sat up straight. What a coincidence, uncle. Jiang Yanfeng, seeing that it was indeed me, walked over. Hello, uncle, I said politely. He nodded, then glanced at Joshi sitting across from me, his eyes lingering on the two of us with a knowing look. President Zhou is here too? You two are... Joshi chuckled, neither denying it nor confirming anything. Jiang Yanfeng was about to say more when a cheerful voice interrupted. Dad. Jiang Yanfeng's expression softened as he looked at his daughter. Turning back to us, he said, Well, I won't interrupt you young people. Then he walked over to join them. The three of them followed a server into a private room. And Duan Yu never once looked in my direction. That girl, I vaguely remembered her. Jiang Yanfeng's precious daughter, Jiang Yuan. A character who barely appeared in the story. But when had she met Duan Yu? Why were they having a meal together? You'll let your food get cold if you keep staring off into space, Miss Jiang. Joshi's voice jolted me back. I picked up my fork and started eating slowly. I chewed, but my mind was stuck on Jiang Yuan and Duan Yu. The food tasted like nothing. You care about him. Joshi's words came out of nowhere, and I nearly choked. I laughed it off. I don't. He set down his utensils and looked at me. You do. From the moment that girl showed up. My hand froze on the fork, my eyes dropping. Even Joshi could see it. But I told myself I was done with Duan Yu. I was supposed to focus on seducing the male lead. Yet my thoughts kept drifting. This lack of control was unsettling. Before I could figure out how to respond, Joshi got up and sat down beside me. Let's test it, see if he cares about you. He leaned in, stopping just a few inches away. From a distance, it would look like we were kissing. I looked past him. Duan Yu was standing in the hallway outside his private room, smoking. Jiang Yuan came out, said something to him, and he put out his cigarette and followed her back inside. Looks like he doesn't care that much after all. Joshi returned to his seat across from me. I sat there, frozen. Maybe this was for the best. We were never in the same world. I was the one who'd walked away first. It was only natural he didn't care. I straightened up, composed myself, and looked at Joshi with new resolve. Mr. Zhou, I consider you a friend. Don't make decisions for me again. The launch event filled up quickly. I took a seat near the back. Joshi ignored the front row and sat beside me. Sorry about earlier, he said quietly. I shook my head and smiled, but my eyes stayed fixed on the stage. Amid thunderous applause, Jiang Yanfeng strode onto the stage. Grinning. He looked like a man who'd already won. Duan Yu followed and took his seat. Jiang Yanfeng said a few polite words, then prepared to announce the official partnership. I object. My voice cut through the room. Every head turned my way. Cameras swiveling to capture whatever was about to happen. I stood up. Joshi reached for my arm, but missed. I was already walking toward the stage. Security rushed toward me. I stepped back and pulled a business card from my bag. The lead guard froze the moment he saw it. The others, reading the name on the card, exchanged uncertain glances. The reporters murmured among themselves, sensing a story. Jiang Yanfeng's expression darkened, his earlier cordiality gone. Just as he opened his mouth, I spoke first. President Jiang, are the shares you're using to partner with GR actually under your name? Gasps rippled through the room. Duan Yu raised an eyebrow, tapping his fingers slowly on the table, the corner of his lips quirking up. Strange. I was ruining his partnership, yet he looked pleased. Jiang Yanfeng's face paled, though he quickly forced himself to stay composed. Little niece, you shouldn't make false accusations. Do you have proof? I'd expected him to deny it. I pulled out the documents I'd prepared and handed them to Duan Yu. President Duan, you should take a close look at this. The moment I'd seen the news, I'd gathered this evidence. In the original story, Jiang Yanfeng had used the Jiang family's shares to pull off a scheme, leaving the company to take the fall while walking away clean. Duan Yu flipped through the documents, then tossed them onto the table in front of Jiang Yanfeng. He didn't say a word, but Jiang Yanfeng looked like he was being slowly suffocated, sweat beading on his forehead. He grabbed the papers, scanned them quickly, then let out a cold, dismissive laugh. A proof of shares. Little niece, you should take a closer look. Your father transferred those small domestic companies to me years ago, as part of the family split. They're mine now. What? Jiang Yanfeng gestured, and his assistant handed a contract to me. Black and white. He was telling the truth. My hands trembled. This part wasn't in the original story. Jiang Yanfeng let out a relieved laugh, waving a hand. Little niece, go home if you have nothing better to do. He stepped closer, patting my shoulder with mock affection, his voice dropping to a menacing whisper. Be a good little heiress and mind your own business. He walked back to the stage like a victor. So no matter what I did, I couldn't change what was already written. President Jiang, I have another contract here. Perhaps you'd like to take a look. Duan Yu's voice cut through. With a flick of his fingers, an assistant placed another document in front of Jiang Yanfeng. He barely glanced at it before his eyes went wide, frozen. I was dying to know what was in that contract. I looked at Duan Yu, lounging lazily in his chair, looking for all the world like a cunning fox. He'd known about Jiang Yanfeng's intentions all along. Then why? Of course, Duan Yu was far too sharp. Maybe even I was just a pawn in his plan. Why had I ever worried about him? My hands dropped to my sides. I turned to leave. President Jiang. Duan Yu's voice rang out as he rose from his seat. It seems we have no reason to cooperate. He strode off the stage, and as he passed me, he took my hand without hesitation. I looked up, confused. "Let's go," he said. And just like that, he led me out, leaving Jiang Yanfeng standing frozen on stage while cameras flashed, capturing his humiliation. The air outside the venue felt fresher. I exhaled deeply and stopped walking. "You already knew," I said, my voice tinged with accusation. Duan Yu looked at my pouting face like I was a child throwing a tantrum. A smile played on his lips. "Yes. Then why did you?" I started to argue, then stopped. Yesterday, I'd been the one to push him away. Today, I'd come here on my own. Frustration bubbled inside me with nowhere to go. I yanked my hand away and turned to leave. "Did you really think I was going to partner with Jiang Yanfeng?" His voice stopped me. I paused and turned back. "You said there was something wrong with him," he continued, stepping closer. "So I went along with it." I stared at him. Was he insane? His expression turned serious. "I was gambling. If you were worried about me, I wanted to see if you'd come to stop me." I hadn't expected that. I stood there speechless. Duan Yu's lips curved upward as he pulled me into his arms. His voice was soft against my ear, seductive and sincere. "Jiang Miao, you came. I won." I'd considered all kinds of reasons, but never once thought Duan Yu was doing it for me. But that was him, wasn't it? He'd always been on my side. So why couldn't I fight for him? Was I really going to ignore my own heart for some mission? I couldn't. He had always chosen me without hesitation. This time, I wanted to be the one to choose him. I let out a breath, the weight in my chest lifting as I wrapped my arms around his back. Duan Yu's smile deepened, his eyes bright with emotion as he leaned in and kissed me. It was different from before. Gentle, tender. Then a sharp ringing filled my ears. I pulled back, disoriented. Through the haze, I heard Duan Yu's voice, low and urgent. My head spun, and before I could respond, my vision blurred. The last thing I saw was the panic in Duan Yu's eyes as I collapsed into his arms. Did I faint? Because Duan Yu kissed me? Of course not. I suddenly remembered. I have a heart condition. When I woke up, the first thing I saw was the white ceiling of a hospital room. I pushed myself up slowly, but as soon as I sat up, another wave of unbearable ringing assaulted my ears. I winced, my breath catching. Ding! The system's mechanical voice cut through. But what it said left me confused. "Host 0931, your mission was completed 3 months ago. Why haven't you returned?" Completed mission? You gave me a mission to seduce the male lead. I stopped mid-sentence. Realization dawning. I looked up sharply. Are you saying the second mission wasn't from you? The system's words hit me like a bucket of ice water. It was silent for a long moment, presumably checking its records. Finally, its voice returned. Query shows that Host 0931 has only ever had one mission. Then who had been giving me missions these past few months? I should have noticed. Ever since the second mission started, the system had been almost silent. I couldn't even summon it properly. I should have figured it out sooner. Who was it? Host 0931, are you saying someone assigned you a second mission? The system asked. I nodded quickly. Another long silence. Detection shows that a character in your novel world has awakened. The plot has deviated from its course. Your new mission is to identify the awakened character and erase their memories. I will assist you. So someone in this world had become self-aware. And they knew who I really was. My enemy was hidden. I was exposed. Who could it be? I can find this person, I said carefully. But I have a condition. What? I haven't figured it out yet. Can I owe you? The system was silent for 2 full seconds. Probably the first time a host had made such a request. But given the situation, I might be its only chance to find whoever was pulling the strings. Eventually, it agreed. Fine. A flash of white light crossed my mind. Host 0931. Agreement confirmed. The door opened and the system vanished. Duan Yu walked in carrying a bowl of congee. He sat down, his eyes low, something unreadable in his expression. He set the bowl aside but didn't offer me any. What's wrong? I poked his arm. Why did you hide it from me? He looked up and I caught a flicker of hurt in his eyes. Duan Yu knew that I wasn't from this world, that the person who had stayed with him through everything had ulterior motives from the start. My throat tightened. I grabbed his sleeve, afraid he'd leave. I searched for words, but none came. Duan Yu leaned into me, resting his chin on my shoulder, his whole weight against me. I'm sorry. If I'd known why you left, I never would have let you go 2 years ago. I exhaled in relief. Oh, that. I'd almost forgotten. I still had that damn heart condition. Duan Yu's arms tightened around me, like he was afraid I'd disappear. You didn't do anything wrong. I patted his back gently. I almost felt grateful to whoever had given me that second mission. Without it, I would have left this world 2 years ago. I wouldn't have understood how Duan Yu truly felt about me. We stayed like that for a moment before I straightened up, pulling back to look at him. I love you, Duan Yu. His eyebrows rose slightly, a questioning look. I continued, my voice steady. Because I love you. I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to say. And you can't get angry. Duan Yu nodded obediently. I'm not from this world. He nodded slowly, his expression remarkably calm. It made me uncomfortable. You're not surprised? I smacked his arm. That was so unsatisfying. Duan Yu let out a soft laugh, his long lashes fluttering. He looked impossibly gentle. I figured it out. Huh? You knew? I looked up, confused. Then I remembered during our last fight. He'd said something. Right. Duan Yu was a clever one. It took some time. But I told him everything from when I first arrived to everything that had happened since. Duan Yu listened, occasionally frowning in thought, slowly piecing it together. Who do you suspect? He asked as he fed me congee. I sighed, shaking my head. That was the problem. It could be anyone, maybe the male or female lead, maybe a supporting character, maybe someone I've never even met. How was I supposed to find them? Frustrated, I took an even bigger bite of congee. Duan Yu gently wiped the corner of my mouth as he analyzed. Whoever it is, they know who you are and how the story goes. That means they're part of the plot. Think who's the most likely? His words something in my mind. Oh! I thought back to when the fake system had appeared, and the tasks it had given me. Slowly, a suspect formed. Zhou Xi? Duan Yu's expression darkened. If it's that guy, it's definitely possible. We were on the same page. Let's test him first, I said with determination. My condition wasn't serious, so after a day of observation, I went home. I arranged to meet Zhou Xi without telling Duan Yu. I wanted to handle this myself. There were too many unknowns. I didn't want to put Duan Yu in danger. We met at the same restaurant as before. By the time I arrived, Zhou Xi was already waiting at the entrance. We walked in together. We'd barely followed the server a few steps when I spotted 2 familiar figures. I saw Duan Yu. He saw me too. His gaze shifted from me to Zhou Xi, a flash of coldness in his eyes. And I noticed who was sitting across from him. Jian Li. She looked striking today in a red dress. Oh, wonderful. Here I was, working hard to figure things out, and he was having dinner with another woman. My good mood evaporated. The guilt I'd felt earlier vanished as I looked at Duan Yu. Jian Li, seemingly unaware of the tension, lit up when she saw me. She got up and took my hand. Sister Jiang, what a coincidence. Since we're all here, let's eat together. I kept my eyes on Duan Yu, practically gritting my teeth. Sure. I sat next to Jian Li. Zhou Xi sat across from me. The 4 of us ate in silence. The awkwardness was suffocating. It lasted until the food arrived. I was eating with my head down when a piece of fish appeared in my bowl. I looked up to find Zhou Xi smiling at me. You like fish, don't you? This place is famous for it, he explained. I smiled and nodded. Bang. Duan Yu had poured 2 glasses of wine and slammed one down in front of Zhou Xi. How's your tolerance, President Zhou? He asked, expressionless. Zhou Xi picked up the glass without a care, toasting him. Decent. He downed it in one go. Then it became a competition, glass after glass, neither willing to back down. I picked up a dish and placed it in Zhou Xi's bowl, making sure to speak loudly. Eat some vegetables. Zhou Xi put down his glass and obediently started eating, playing along. Duan Yu's eyes darkened. He drank in silence. Between all this, I completely forgot why I'd come. Glancing at Duan Yu out of the corner of my eye, I mumbled. I'm going to the restroom. I got up and headed toward the bathroom. After a quick symbolic hand wash, I'd barely taken a few steps when, just as I'd expected, a hand reached out and pulled me into a private room. In the darkness, every sensation was amplified. Duan Yu's familiar scent, tinged with alcohol, surrounded me as he pinned me between his chest and the wall. What are you doing? I pushed against his chest, annoyed. He'd had quite a bit to drink, but his gaze was still sharp. I shot back. So it's okay for you to do it, but not me. That's not how it works. He rubbed his forehead. That was business. I suspect her. This is business too. I turned my head away with a huff. So much for business, we just ruined each other's operations. Duan Yu studied me for a long moment, jealousy simmering beneath the surface. His arm tightened around my waist, pulling me toward him. I trembled slightly, but he ignored it, his possessive lips claiming mine. His focus was so intense that he didn't notice the flash of red fabric through the door crack. My breath grew shallow. I pushed against him, creating some space. Duan Yu looked at me, his eyes hazy, blinking slowly, almost making me feel like the cruel one. I caught my breath and whispered, "There are 2 people waiting for us out there." He exhaled, laced his fingers through mine, and led me out. I couldn't break free, so I gave up and let him pull me along. When we returned to the table, Jian Li and Joshi were eating in perfect, almost suspicious harmony. Their eyes fell on our intertwined hands. Duan Yu noticed, giving our joined hands a deliberate swing. It's getting late. Miu and I are heading out. Will you stay and finish up President Zhou? Or shall I give you a ride? Joshi let out a soft snort and wiped his mouth with a napkin. No need. I have things to do. He left the restaurant and drove off. Guan Yu's expression softened almost imperceptibly. He placed a hand on my shoulder. I have some business to take care of. My car's out front, the driver will take you home. Oh, okay. I nodded obediently. Checking that I wasn't upset, he turned to leave, saying he'd be back early. I watched him go, puzzled. Everyone seemed to have somewhere to be. With both men gone, it was just me and Jian Li. Her lips pressed together like she wanted to say something but didn't know how. She seemed like such an innocent girl, but I sensed something complicated beneath that pure face. I thought about what Duan Yu had said. I suspect her. What's wrong? I asked gently. She hesitated, tugging at my sleeve. Her watery eyes dropped, and something in me wanted to protect her. Could I stay with you tonight? Afraid I'd refuse, she quickly added. I promise I'll be good. I won't be any trouble. Of course. I took her hand and headed toward the car. I glanced at her thoughtfully. We'd soon find out what she really was. Back home, I sat on the bed and texted Duan Yu, asking where he was. I felt uneasy, a strange, unexplainable restlessness. While waiting for his reply, I heard Jian Li call me. Sister Zhang. I looked up to see her standing at the door. Something felt different about her. Her gaze was calm, but her eyes seemed bottomless. My grip on my phone tightened. What is it? A faint smile tugged at Jian Li's lips. She took a breath. Jiang Miao. You're the 9th one I've met. The 9th what? I didn't understand. She continued, unconcerned. That time at the hotel, I really thought I'd have to go through that despair again. I thought you'd make the same choice as the 8 before you. But you kicked that door open. You came in like a light. Right then, I swore to myself I want to destroy this world. Except for you. My eyes widened slowly as I rose to my feet. So she was the one. The awakened one was Jian Li. It was you who made me seduce the male lead, wasn't it? I asked, needing confirmation. Yes. Jian Li smiled, an eerie expression on her face. She spoke about herself like she was telling someone else's story. You probably didn't know before you. That thing sent 8 other people here. That makes sense, I guess. They all failed, but I should thank them. If they hadn't failed and made this world restart so many times, I never would have awakened. Never would have discovered the system. Never would have realized this was all a book. My brows drew together. I knew there had been previous hosts, but I didn't know there were 8. In the Host Management Bureau's rules, whenever a host died or failed a mission, the world would reset, return to the very beginning, and start over. You know what I went through in that dark room? Because of this stupid plot, I couldn't even fight back. Jian paused, her tone lightening. So on the 9th try I got smart. I pretended to be the system, found you, and used you to help me destroy this world. But you surprised me. You actually chose to save me. Since you saved me once, you can never leave me. Watch me, the female lead, burn this book to the ground. Her eyes were consumed by hatred. Her innocent face twisted with malice. A chill ran down my spine. My mind raced, piecing everything together. Then it hit me. I looked up at her sharply. Where's Duan Yu? Jian tilted her head, pretending to think. Him? I almost forgot. He and Joshi should be on the rooftop. Do you think they'll be surprised to see each other? Her tone shifted, her eyes turning vicious. The villain and the male lead, dying together. That's the ending I chose for them. I stared at her in disbelief. I lunged forward to confront her. But Jian was faster. She slammed the door shut and locked it from the outside. I pounded on the door, screaming her name, but she didn't respond. I only stopped when I heard the front door close. Please, Duan Yu. Don't let anything happen to you. I grabbed a heavy object and attacked the lock, but it wouldn't budge. I remembered something from years ago when I'd renovated this place. The salesman had boasted that even a steel giant couldn't break through this door. Turns out he wasn't lying. Leaning against the door, catching my breath, my eyes landed on the floor-to-ceiling window. Right. I was on the first floor. No time to think. I hailed a taxi and gave the driver the address. I knew exactly where Jian would end this. The moment the car stopped, I ran into W Hotel and took the elevator straight to the top floor. The hotel was famous in the city for its dizzying height. It was also where Jian nightmare had begun. The wind grew stronger as I climbed the last flight of stairs. Through the door, I caught Duan Yu's voice. The door opened easily. The scene on the rooftop unfolded before me. Duan Yu was facing Jian, his hand pressed against his abdomen, blood seeping through his fingers. Joshi sat slumped against the wall nearby, clearly injured as well. When the door opened, all three turned to look at me. Duan Yu's eyes searched mine, asking if I was okay. I shook my head and ran to him. I'm fine, he said, his voice strained, though he straightened to hold me. What are you doing here? Jian expression flickered with displeasure. I told you to stay put. Jian, stop this. If you destroy this world, you'll destroy yourself. I looked at her, hoping to reach what was left of her conscience. She laughed bitterly. So what? Wasn't I already destroyed? I froze, watching her stand in the howling wind. In that moment, I wanted to run to her and hold her, like she had run to me the first time we met. Maybe no one was truly at fault. Jian, from the night of that banquet, I always thought you were remarkable. I know you're hurting. I know this world has been cruel to you. But please stop. To hold you, I took a slow step toward her. I genuinely cared about this strong, resilient girl, and I didn't want her story to end like this. Jian stood frozen for a long moment. Perhaps no one had ever looked past her pain and simply wanted to embrace her. Just as I was about to reach her, she stepped back, turning her face away with a defeated sigh. It's too late. When she looked up, the flicker of doubt in her eyes was gone, replaced by something like relief. She pulled a remote from her pocket, her gaze fixed on Joshi with pure hatred. Though she spoke to me. The bomb is set for 1 minute. You should go. This is the ending I chose for myself. They both have to die. Her face contorted with fury. What are you doing? Jian, I can change this. All of it. I glanced at Duan Yu, then back at her. Trust me, you're insane. Desperate, she started toward me, but I took another step back and she froze. Jiang Miao. Duan Yu's voice was raw with desperation, but I couldn't answer him. The wind whipped my clothes as I steadied myself and called out to the system. I found the awakened one. It's the female lead. My condition is this. When everything restarts, let me stay in this world forever. A faint ringing filled my ears. Ding. The moment the system confirmed. Agreement confirmed. Implementation in progress. I let myself fall backward. The world rushed past me as I plunged into the void. Just before I fell, I saw Duan Yu lunging toward me, reaching out, and the shock in Jian eyes. I rubbed my temples, and the hotel corridor slowly came into focus. This was where it all began. I ran into the elevator and pressed the floor button. As soon as the doors opened, I sprinted to the room where the female lead was trapped. Just like before, I kicked the door open. But this time I was earlier. The plot hadn't started yet. Jian Li was alone, about to drink the tea on the table. She looked up at me, confused by the intrusion, with no memory of what had happened. I snatched the cup from her hand and pulled her to her feet. "Come with me." "Who are you?" She was confused, but didn't pull away. Even though she was seeing me for the first time, something made her trust me instinctively. I led her to a room on another floor, gave her my number, and explained everything quickly. "Your stepsister set this up. Stay here. Don't go anywhere. Wait for my call." Jian Li took it in with wide eyes and nodded numbly. After making sure she was settled, I went up 5 floors. Following my memory, I found the room where Duan Yu should have been. The door was wide open, wider than I remembered. Where was Duan Yu? Panic crept into my chest. I checked my phone, but his number wasn't in my contacts. Of course, in the original story, I'd cut all ties with him after leaving. I didn't get his number until after we met in this room. Now that I was part of this world and couldn't summon the system, I had no idea where to go or who to ask for help. I curled up by the bed, lost and overwhelmed. "Jiang Miao?" I looked up at the familiar voice. Duan Yu stood in the doorway, his hand braced against the frame, slightly out of breath. Without thinking, I ran to him and threw myself into his arms. "Where were you?" I mumbled against his chest, my voice thick with tears I couldn't hold back. Duan Yu was frozen, staring at me in confusion. After a long moment, he raised a hand to stroke my back. When he spoke, his words came slowly, like he was still processing. "I had a dream. You came back. So many things happened. In the dream, you were standing on a rooftop, and I couldn't catch you. I watched you fall." His eyes were gentle but full of fear as he looked at me. "It felt so real. I could feel you near me. When I woke up, I ran out to find you, but you weren't there." He pulled me closer. "I'm glad the dream was right. You were here." I held him tighter. I hadn't expected Duan Yu to remember. I laced my fingers through his. "Duan Yu, I'm staying. For good." Through the corridor window, the sunset painted the sky in shades of amber, the end of one day, and the beginning of something new. I knocked lightly. A clear voice called, "Come in," and I pushed the door open. Duan Yu's expression softened when he saw it was me. He pulled me close. "What brings you to the office?" "Missed you." I gave him my best innocent look. He raised an eyebrow, his fingers finding my waist. "All right, what is it?" "Caught." Not that I was embarrassed. I gave his shoulders an exaggerated massage. "The head of your audit department, his name is Shen Duo, right?" Duan Yu tilted his head, watching me with amusement. He nodded. "Can I ask HR for his file? I'll say it's for you." I leaned in, putting on my most pitiful expression. His arms snaked around my waist, pulling me closer. "You want another man's file? And you think I'll just give it to you?" I raised my hand. "I have you. I don't even see other people. I actually need it for something." I tugged at his sleeve, and he sighed. "Fine. Go ahead." I practically bounced off his lap, beaming. "Thanks, boyfriend." I started for the door, then doubled back to give him a quick peck on the cheek. "That's your reward." Satisfied, I left. A small smile tugged at Duan Yu's lips as he turned back to his work. Just outside the door, I nearly collided with Kui Yingying. I discovered she was a host too. When we'd realized it, we'd been overjoyed to find someone who understood. Turned out, she was in this world because this book had a companion novel. Same world, different story. And the reason I just asked Duan Yu for Shen Duo's file was for her. "Senior." Kui Yingying's voice was sweet. She sidled up to me, eyes sparkling. "How'd it go? How'd it go?" I gave her a thumbs up and she squealed, grabbing my arm and shaking it so hard I got dizzy. "Stop." I pulled free. "So your mission is to win over Shen Duo?" She nodded enthusiastically, then sighed. "I've been here almost 2 weeks and I've exchanged maybe 3 sentences with him." Her words made me think of my own struggles, back when I was supposed to be the unattainable love for Duan Yu. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Long-lost daughter of the Jian family returns. A smile curved my lips. A weight I hadn't even known I was carrying lifted from my chest. Kui Yingying was still talking, but I'd zoned out. I tuned back in just in time to hear her ask, "Senior, was your target worth staying in this world for?" I looked up. Duan Yu stood across the floor, tall in his suit, giving instructions to his team with his usual intensity. Our eyes met. No matter when, Duan Yu was brilliant. My phone buzzed again. A message from him. "Wait for me at the entrance. I'm making sweet and sour ribs tonight, your favorite." When I looked up, he was back to being the serious boss. Like he hadn't just been texting me during work. I smiled. Turning to Kui Yingying, I gave her my answer. Of course he was.